Questions, comments? Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Presentations have been terrific. I'm Paula Stern, CED trustee. Thanks a lot. Paula Stern, CED trustee. I would like to just add to this plentiful meal of ideas that we've had an asset which I hope CED and others will use. One of my clients is the National Center for Women and Information Technology. And so we have been focusing on unpacking STEM and really focusing on IT and computing skills because the mismatch, which y'all have described, is very prominent in that area. And because the National Science Foundation gave us money to start this thing. But it is growing, and one of the things we took on ourselves, and I'd like y'all to use it, is that we went and mapped congressional district by congressional district, state by state, the mismatch between those kids, for example, who might be in high school taking computing science, in a community college in that congressional district, or in a college, or all the way up, and then the job openings that have been posted for those. And it is dramatic, and I think we would like to see change agents throughout the country at each congressional level, state level, use that just to make your points, which you've all made very, very well, but it's one more asset. It's at ncwit.org. And it's called Jobs and Education. But it's terrific what you're all doing. I don't have a question.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, right here.
Got it.
Sir.
Oh, thanks. Joe Casputi, CED trustee. We heard some very powerful arguments on the need for change in the post-secondary system, and some really startling statistics on how it's not delivering what America needs. These arguments have come from corporations and foundations. Where are the educators? I mean, these are smart people. Maybe their incentives are skewed or even sometimes perverse, but they must see what's happening. Are we sufficiently engaging the thought leaders who are involved in education that need to do this change? It's a kind of a general question, but I think they should be here.
I'll take a crack at it because, as I said earlier, I had my career in K-12 education as Deputy Chancellor here in New York. I've worked very closely with the City University. I worked in the mayor's office, worked for the government, and now in the private sector. I think one of our biggest difficulties is we really don't have vehicles for collaborative problem solving across the sectors. So if you are talking to people in the school systems, they're very often feeling enormous pressure to improve their completion rates, talking about K-12. And one of the ways they do that is by accumulating academic credits for things that are actually going to get a kid a diploma that may not help them with that diploma to complete community college. So the pressures and the tensions in that foxhole, K-12, dictate a range of decisions to comply with regulation, et cetera. And then you move to higher ed, and they're also, to some degree, isolated. There's not a lot of collaboration. There are some great examples. City University is a good example, moving towards higher education collaboration. Some of our great science and technology institutions, Stanford, Cornell, MIT, work with the private sector all the time, but public institutions and community colleges don't. And from the private sector standpoint, we wring our hands a lot. Sometimes we lob grenades, but there aren't a lot of problem-solving opportunities across the sector. We would really benefit by opportunities to come up with solutions and packages of assistance if we could get the sectors of the economy working together towards these solutions, and don't leave out civil society, because the voluntary sector plays a critical role too. I see that as a big problem. So the business community talking to itself, K-12 talking to itself, higher ed the same. and not just policy studies, but real problem solving.
Other comments on that question? Other questions?
Can I
Charlie.
ask a question for Carl? You said in your remarks that there is really no workforce planning in the United States. You look at other countries, other economies, other workforces. How is it that other places get it right and we just don't seem to be able to get our act together? What explains it?
You know, we have a unique government system and a unique governing philosophy here, which the idea of central planning of any sorts kind of sends shudders down a lot of the audiences that I speak to. This is not among the more popular of my suggestions to talk about centralized workforce planning. But it's easy enough to do in countries like Singapore and Switzerland and Germany, which do a much better job of it. It's not, they don't have that same, visceral reaction to centralized planning. I personally couldn't imagine a presidential candidate running saying that among his first acts would be an executive order to create a centralized workforce planning function in the Department of Labor. It'd be amusing to watch.
Peter, last question.
First of all, I think actually a lot of that data already exists, and it's not in a government regulatory form. There's a lot of it in Career Builder.
Yep.
People can query degree programs, earnings, jobs availability within 100 miles of where they live. We just don't use it very well. My question is this, for Marilyn and for Carl. If someone came to you and convinced you that they could create valid certificates which reflected what people needed to know and that they actually knew it, but they weren't accredited, would you hire the people?
Marilyn?
Now, can I say it again? No. You're convinced that the credential you're being given has been appropriately assessed, that they can do, know, and have the intellectual, behavioral, and skill levels that you need for job X, but they are not accredited. Would you hire the person with that Cisco certificate?
Yes.
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 But if it didn't say Cisco certificate and you were still convinced, would you?
Yes, if we had a system to evaluate that and knew it was an accredited certificate, absolutely. Sure. And we need to move to more of that.
It's not an accredited certificate. You're the ones that are convinced it's valid, that it is transparent to what the person knows and is able to do on day one on the job. Yeah, but it's not from an accredited place.
The answer is still yes.
Yeah, would be. We provide our own certifications inside Kelly already for our own training programs, and so sure.
Thank you. Will you join me in thanking Carl and our panel and Charlie?
Thank you, Pat. Let me also thank Pat, Carl, our panelists, for our superb discussion. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today, and we're about to go into CED's executive committee meeting, and before we do that, I would also like to thank the CED staff, who for the last 2 days have just been absolutely beyond superlative. These are our two busiest, most intense, and occasionally stressful days of the year, and the CED staff, as they always are, have just been superb. So if you would just gather together. Thank you. Just meet me outside the room for a couple minutes, and then we're going to adjourn now and then head back up to the 4th floor, I think, for our executive committee meeting. Thank you all once again.